Today's ruling was a huge win for the husband and wife defense team of Karen Friedman and Mark Agnifilo. Agnifilo, of course, recently almost won the Sean Diddy Combs trial. By striking the death penalty, now the defense can really try this case without worrying that their client is going to be sentenced to death. Now, obviously, Mangione is still facing a potential life sentence in both state and federal court. But if you keep your client alive in a death penalty case, you've already won as a defense attorney. Unlike state charges, federal murder requires some sort of federal nexus or a jurisdictional hook. So if the murder occurs on federal property, it's the murder of a government official, it's a murder for hire crossing state lines, that can be federal murder. Or in this particular case, the basis for the murder was a murder committed with a firearm in furtherance of a crime of violence. So crimes of violence typically include kidnapping, drug trafficking, and terrorism. In this particular case, the government argued that Luigi Mangione committed the murder with a firearm in furtherance of stalking. The defense argued that stalking was not a crime of violence because stalking can be committed without force. Judge Garnett agreed, and because stalking was not a crime of violence, the judge dismissed the murder charges. And because the murder charge was the only charge that carried the potential death penalty, the judge struck the capital sentence in the case. My reaction is that this was probably the right decision by the judge and a poor decision by the Department of Justice to charge Mangione in federal court. He had already been charged in state court, and even under the Department of Justice's own internal policy, federal prosecutors don't charge after the state unless there's a compelling federal interest that isn't vindicated in the state case. Here, the Department of Justice probably only charged Mangione because New York doesn't have the death penalty. It abolished it more than 20 years ago. But that's not a good legal reason necessarily to charge Mangione in federal court when he'd already been charged by state prosecutors. What they were trying to do is fit the facts of this case into the federal murder statutes. And there was just no clear match. It was like forcing a square peg into a round hole. Unfortunately, for the Department of Justice, this is just another loss. And even though they're going to appeal to the Second Circuit, they've suffered a series of losses in high-profile cases, such as James Comey, Letitia James. And the question is, are they being too aggressive in charging cases that may not have legal merit?
The officer quickly recognized the male as the suspect from the shooting. And within several minutes, seconds of the first contact, he had asked the suspect if he had been in New York City recently. And that really invoked a physical reaction from the suspect. He became visibly nervous, kind of shaking at that question. And he didn't really answer it directly. So that statement alone really said a lot. And the suspect didn't have to say a lot after that question to show that, you know, he was very nervous at that point.
We were able to pretty much find where he was at in the restaurant. And as soon as he was wearing a blue medical mask. As soon as we pulled that down, or we asked him to pull it down, me, my partner and I recognized him immediately, just for what we saw in the media, with photos, videos. We just didn't even think twice about it. We knew that was our guy, but he was very cooperative with us. Didn't really give us too many issues.
So there are a lot of things that need to be followed up yet in this investigation. Certainly, there were a number of items that were found on his person, in his backpack, that have been inventoried, and we've begun to do an analysis of some of those. There were written documents. There are electronic devices that are in the process of being downloaded. Search warrants are obtained. And so over the next hours and days, those efforts will continue, and we're going to take a closer look at all of the information that we can glean from that regarding his activities up until and during the time of the homicide, his flight from New York, and we know that he has been in Pennsylvania excuse me, for several days. And so part of that investigation will also focus on trying to retrace his steps. We've already identified businesses, for example, that he frequented in this area and activities that he engaged in. That led us to more evidence.
Violence can never be used to address political differences or to address a substantive difference or to try and prove some ideological point. That is not what we do in a civilized society. That was true in Butler. It was true in New York City. It's true anywhere. That is not how you make progress in this country. The person, the suspect here, who shot at that CEO and killed that CEO is a coward, not a hero. And we need to make sure that in this country, we get back to having a civil discourse about our differences. And that is an important lesson coming out of Pennsylvania. And it is one that I think the rest of the nation needs to hear as well.